Completely.
Not completely.
Not completely, because my daughter has a friend who's was born in Syria,
Oh no, that's trouble.
left Syria when she was 2,
Wow.
and went to Sweden, went to school in California, and um, she had a trip planned for next week, and she can't go.
No, she should not go. But she should not have any trouble if she has all the green card. But I don't know what are they looking at, Syrian birth or Swedish passport?
Syrian birth.
Which is interesting because more likely a problem would be if you were born here and traveled to Saudi Arabia, which is not part of the thing, and came back. Those are the people they'd have to start worrying about a great deal more.
Yeah,
Just based
but
on who's created problems in the past.
I mean that is the dilemma. Why were people from Saudi Arabia not put in the same pot?
Well,
Or people
Oil.
from
oil and
well,
hotels.
no, or people from Pakistan, where all the terrorists go and get trained,
Right.
or Afghanistan. I mean, why not those people? But at the same time, you also have to look at other countries. In fact, you have Kuwait, for example. Kuwait does not allow a whole bunch of Muslim countries citizens to come in. I don't know why, but they don't like that. Oh, you're like okay.
Okay.
too fast.
We've been talking for a while, and what we wanted to talk about today was Donald Trump's first 14 days as president, and what's happened and what we think. And you caught us earlier talking a little bit about that. The obvious thing that's come up is the travel ban, which isn't a ban, but it is a ban depending upon whether you talk to the president or not. He calls it a ban. All of his aides say no. About people coming in from one of seven countries in the Middle East. And that's kind of what we were starting to talk about, but I'm sure there's a great many other things that we'd like to discuss as well.
I mean, that's what I was actually saying, that I don't know why the other countries where we got the terrorists from Saudi Arabia, and they got trained in Pakistan and Afghanistan, why are those countries not included? I cannot understand that. But at the same time, what I've also pointed out, that you have other countries that have from time to time barred people from coming into their countries. For example, Kuwait right now does not allow, I think, people from Iraq or Syria or some other countries.
That's current.
Yeah,
that's
that's
been going
current.
on for a while.
Yeah, that's
So
been going.
Other different countries
Yeah.
do the same thing, right? They
So,
all have different bans.
so you have kind of a rationale for banning people from coming in. So is that right or not? That's different. But there is kind of a method to this, that you can in fact ban people from coming into a country.
You
Oh,
can.
yeah, you can.
By the way, let me clarify something. Conceptually, I understand. I don't necessarily agree, but I understand with what's being done.
Mm-hmm.
The problem that I see is that it was done so poorly. They fired and told clear out all the people in Department of State and Homeland Security who might have been able to administer it properly, got them out of there, and then after they were gone, announced this ban without thinking through the problem. So you had people who had green cards working for major corporations who were stopped. By the way, that got fixed real fast.
Mm-hmm.
But there were also people one family from Iraq who had been a translator for the Army for a number of years, gone through 2.5 years of vetting. 2.5 years. And was getting on an airplane to come to the United States, as he had been promised by the U.S. Army, and was told, don't get on the airplane, you cannot come into the United States. To my knowledge, he's still in Iraq. Has no money, has no job, has no house or anything of the sort. But, and that's the clown show of implementation.
I mean, that is sad, actually, that a person who dedicated his life to work with U.S. Army, he is prevented or they are prevented from coming in. That's not right. That's not nice. That's not good. Not only not good for that person, but also not good for U.S. foreign policy in a big way. And I think we made the similar mistake in Iraq when we went in. We fired all the people we considered Baathists and got rid of all the army people, and now look what happened.
Right. We lost the peace.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is another way of doing it.
Basically, they fired the people who knew how to run a country.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly
And
the same
didn't replace
mistake.
them with people who at least were working for us. They replaced them with people who had their own priorities, which is very
Well,
nice and very democratic. But for the poor slob who needs to get water in the morning to make tea and wash his face, he didn't care.
Yeah. That wasn't the only story. There was another one. I think it was a woman who was an interpreter. Wasn't really affected by this this ruling from Iraq, and she was an interpreter. Worked for several years and wanted to come to the United States, and she had gobs of very glowing references from U.S. Army people, and one unsigned negative comment.
Oh, wow.
And she kept getting refused by this one unsigned negative comment.
And they did not investigate why.
They don't know who put it there, but you know, for all I know, it could have been Osama bin Laden did it.
Yeah,
you know?
it could be.
You know, wrote the negative comment. But seriously, one person had a negative comment and submitted it, no signature, and that kept her out.
But now we're going to have extreme vetting, as opposed to 2.5 years of screwing around.
What do you mean, extreme vetting?
Donald Trump is going to
It- as
replace
di-
the 2.5 year vetting that's been going on up till now, which seems to be effective. It's
I'm not
effective.
sure.
In
I don't follow you. The 2.5 year vetting for what?
for example, the guy I was talking about who was an Army interpreter. And
But there was no vetting going on before. You
of
just
course,
came
there was
in-
vetting going on
Oh,
before.
right.
2.5
2.5
years
years.
of vetting by the State Department.
Yeah, but you're talking about one person.
Or-
We're talking about gobs of people coming in and stopping it. But you're
Every
talking about just one person.
every one of
with
those
2.5 years of
Right.
vetting.
By
every
the
one
way,
of those
yeah.
went through this same procedure.
Right.
Every one of who?
Every one of those people who sought to come to the United
Translators.
Well,
People that
transit.
work for the Army. or
How
people
about
and stuff like that.
refugees?
A-
It takes a
anyone
year
who
and a
wanted
half
to-
to 2 years for a refugee to come to the United States
Not
because of
all-
the
not all the
vetting.
time.
Yeah,
Not all the time.
the ones coming from Syria, that's what it's taking. That's why we've only accepted.
That's what we're saying. It's not always like that. So you can have refugees come into the country or
Oh,
walk over
yeah,
the border or do whatever they want to do. But what you're talking about is getting on a plane and getting a passport stamp and going
Right.
through. Different than
right,
just
as
saying
opposed to
just
people
come
coming
in-
from Cuba,
Or
where
anywhere, not
the
just
deal
Cuba.
is if you can
get
touch
here,
dry
you're
land,
here.
you're here.
Well,
Right.
By the way, that just ended last day of Obama,
Right.
but that's okay. The people, at least in Florida, think that's okay. That's fine.
I mean,
But
isn't,
God forbid somebody that has 2.5 years worth of study and references. That's not good.
but most of the
Well,
people who go
the other exception is baseball.
Well, yeah, but
Well, yeah. If you get the
oh,
now if they could play football,
but most of the people who go through this green card business, they have to go through this vetting.
Yeah.
They cannot just walk over.
Yeah, but you can be here going through the vetting.
No,
also.
you can't.
From a green card perspective, you can be
But
on, you can be
no,
on
but
land.
no, but that means that is you have been admitted lawfully first.
Right.
But and that means at that time also somebody has done the vetting, because they don't give you when you go to. Well, let me give you my story. When you go to the U.S. Embassy in India, for example, they don't just go, okay, here. No, they don't do that.
No, I know. Because we've had people I worked
Yeah.
with who went home and they got stopped
They,
coming back.
yeah,
because
that's it.
something
That's the
was-
end of that. Yes.
Something was irregular with their passport. So they spent another 2 or 3 weeks at the
Yes.
embassy trying to clear it up.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. It's not that easy to really. You are actually at the mercy of the embassy
Right,
staff,
Right, exactly.
and God knows what they do in that behind that desk.
Right.
I mean, recently actually there was after the ban was instituted. Apparently there is some kind of a game, not game. There's some kind of a sports event happening somewhere in upstate New York,
Okay.
and
Recently?
it's happening in February at some time. I forgot the date. And there are, I think, 2 people from Kashmir, 2 Muslims, who were supposed to come. They were invited to come to play. I forgot.
Was there skiing kind of thing?
I don't know what game. It's some kind of ice involves ice,
Okay.
and I don't remember what the name.
New York in February
Yeah.
is not going to be
And they upstate somewhere, and they were both stopped, and the report said, well, the embassy staff said, we can't give you the visa. Why not? Because Trump's orders are there.
Right.
And now everybody is saying because they are Muslims, that's why. But I don't know what the deal is. But they are from India. That's not that's.
Blocked if they're from India.
Yeah, they should not have been. But
Right.
apparently
But
because
they're blocked for some other reason than
Yeah.
the ban that's on now.
so that's the end of that.
Right.
The ban that we're aware of.
Yeah.
The ban that's signed now.
Yeah, but no, that we're aware of. There's a difference
If there was a
between.
different ban that was going on right now that we're not aware
Yes.
of, you would be aware of it. Because anything he does or anything that is signed or anybody that's blocked anywhere, you know about it the second it happens.
But at the same time, there are regulations made after the executive order is framed.
Right, there's different
So
regulations.
we don't
but
know
there's
what.
also regulations that have been informed
Yes,
before that.
before
that
that,
are
of course.
Still in place.
Yes, they are in
So
place.
all he's doing is putting a 90-day ban on
Yeah.
travel from 7 different countries.
Yes.
That's what that's the intent of the executive
That's the
order.
intent.
Yeah.
Everything else is still in place. Everything that's been in
Right.
place since 2011
Well,
by President Obama, everything's placed in 2014 by President Obama is still in place.
But at the same time, how the bottom line is it going to really be effective in protecting the United
No.
States? That's the
Right,
crux
it's not,
of it.
Yeah.
It's not.
And
Not only
so
that,
how
the-
that means we have to have some kind of a policy to protect the United States homeland from all the terrorists that originate here or who originate somewhere else. They could originate in Canada and
Well,
walk
they could
walk
originate
over.
from just here from the last 20
Yes.
years. It doesn't matter. It's
well, they could be born here.
They could
As a
be
matter
born
of
here.
fact, the
Exactly, they
vast
could be born here.
majority of these things have happened from people who were born here.
Yes, and that's the
like who?
Other, since
I mean, the only one that I can think of is the guy that blew up the Oklahoma.
no, but the guy
No,
in
but- yeah, but
San Bernardino, he
San Bernardino was
he was born here.
Right. The
Husband-wife team.
right. That was last year.
That was last year. Husband-wife team.
The guy who attacked the Orlando nightclub,
No, yeah.
born here. The guy who
That's
No, he wasn't born here.
yeah.
yeah, he was.
Yeah,
I think
No, he wasn't.
his
born here.
parents are immigrants. I think he
I
was.
th- yeah,
born
I,
here.
th-
don't think he
I
was
think he's
born
from
here.
Afghanistan.
He's from us. Yeah,
I
he
think.
wasn't born here.
No, but
He
his
was from us.
his parents are from Afghanistan, but I think he was born here.
I believe he was.
Well,
If not, he
Either
was
way,
here
it was
as,
close.
as a
It was
little
close. Yeah,
kid.
he was here for
Yeah.
a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think.
The-
well,
either
he was here for a while, served in the armed
Yeah,
services.
yeah, he
right.
served in the
And-
army. Yeah, that's
And
another.
then-
He served in the army.
Right.
Right.
The guy who shot up the army base in
Yeah.
Kentucky. was
Captain
born
Nadal,
here.
Captain Nadal.
Yes.
Nadal, but
Yeah.
Yeah, he was Kuwaiti.
I don't know.
Nationality.
I don't know.
Think
He was also
I
in-
think
he was in-
born
he-
here. I know he was obviously he was in the service.
He was in service
and
actually.
he's been in the
Yeah.
service as a career.
Right.
So
I
Yeah.
know what you're talking about. The ones in San Bernardino. That's
Yeah.
what you're talking about. Husband and wife.
yes,
Right. They
But-
were not
Well,
born here.
the husband was.
Husband.
Wife,
Right.
They
Yeah.
got married for her to get here.
yes.
Yeah.
Husband, wife came from Saudi Arabia.
Right.
She was born in Pakistan,
Right.
but that's what people are saying. How come she was not wedded? But we don't know whether she was wedded or she was not wedded. How much wedding? Usually, anybody who comes
I know,
along,
Yeah, a little bit of that story.
anybody who comes along has to be wedded because
I-
they can't come in
I
just
thought
like
she
that.
was blocked a few times coming in.
That I don't know.
And then
I don't know.
And then they
I
got
don't know.
married, and it eased up that blocking a little bit.
But
Well,
even
Well,
then,
actually,
even-
she got married here. She
Yes.
was.
No,
No,
she
she got
was married in Saudi Arabia.
Did they?
And then they came in together. It
'Cause
was,
I
it was a
thought she-
little, it was a little kludgy story
Okay.
on what had happened or how, anyway,
Yeah.
how it happened. But
But-
I think what's
Yeah.
going on now, yeah, I think it's a little bit extreme. And I think it's something that he said in his campaign.
his
Right.
yes,
Right? So, I mean, this is the thing. You talk about the last 14 days, he hasn't done anything different than what he talked about in his campaign.
yeah, he's fulfilling the promises.
Well-
He's saying everything he said,
Yeah.
whether it's
It-
right, wrong, or indifferent.
He's doing
Actually,
it.
he did do
He's doing
something
it.
different.
What's that?
He, particularly at the end of the campaign, was talking about draining the swamp, getting the money out of Washington, etc. And what he has done is every one of his cabinet posts have been people who are extremely rich, which no crime in that.
Yeah, no,
But I
that's,
mean,
that's an issue.
if you're trying to get rid of money in Washington, bringing on people who have billions makes you wonder. But two have been anti, in almost every case, the posts that they were coming on. For the perfect example is the education person,
Yes.
who made a fortune privatizing education.
Right.
Well, you also have.
And now that's the person who's going to be responsible for making sure that public education is good.
Well, you also had the governor of Texas who said he was going to eliminate the energy department, and then he apologized that he was wrong.
And the guy that's in charge of environment.
Yeah, he's going,
Right.
doesn't believe in.
doesn't believe in that.
Global
But
warming.
Yeah.
but at the same, but one thing
Or
I
much of
wa-
anything else.
You know, he said he was going to drain the swamp, and he has. He really has.
oh, okay.
He's drained the swamp, and now the alligators and poisonous snakes are in the city.
Okay. No, but one thing in that defense, I would say that who is going to run the government unless they are people who have some kind of experience in finance, law, or something like that. Because by saying I'm going to drain the swamp, I think that sounds good,
Right.
and you get votes. But when you go to the reality, who is going to run the government? You
it's
don't want to do the same thing what we did in Iraq. You want to bring in people
Wanna
with
bring in people
experience.
Who
Who
have
ca-
they think have the experience
Yes.
to run something.
Right.
That's
be
it.
able to
And-
run it.
Yes.
And that's
And
why.
not have everybody yelling at them or screaming at them from a partisan, bipartisan, whatever, but from a
Well, they're going to yell and scream
different-
anyway.
Yeah, they're going to.
a different group. I'm trying to think of the name of the name split my head, but anyway, from a different group pushing you in one direction.
Mhm.
These guys hopefully are going to keep their line and keep their, straight ahead and make it better. But we'll see. We don't know.
Well, the problem is, Rick Perry's perfect example. Rick Perry was called up and said, "You want to be energy secretary?"
Yes,
He
yeah,
said,
of course.
I'd love to go
Yeah.
around and talk up American
Yeah.
oil and gas. And then he found out that it's actually keeping track of and control of the atomic plants and all of the stocks of weapons. You would need to understand something about what it is that you're running, or the people who are there are going to be telling you whatever they want to tell
And
you
you're not
because
gonna
you
understand
don't
it. Right.
you don't have the background to be able to judge what they're saying.
Well, there also you have to also look towards Trump that he has to fulfill some of those campaign promises. I don't know what he told Perry to bring him into his camp, and because he has some followers, so he has to bring him along. So give him something, and give him a biscuit, so he's there. It's okay.
There is one hope, and that is that an awful lot of the people who work for the government are civil service people
Yes.
that they can't fire.
Yeah.
And those are the people that
They are trying to fire.
will.
Department of
will
Justice
run.
is a perfect example,
Well-
trying to get rid of all these career prosecutors
Yes.
because they're unreliable.
Mhm.
So what's wrong with that?
Well,
They're
it's
unreliable.
civil service is
Th-
there
they're-
for a
they'll
reason.
try to.
Well, they'll want to replace him with somebody who's more reliable.
What is reliable?
Somebody who does their job.
Oh.
Somebody who follows the law. Somebody who does their job. Like
No, these people are following the law.
Right.
It's Trump who's not.
By the way,
No.
the lady you were about to ask about, the lady who
Attorney
was
General who got fired.
yeah,
The acting
She-
Attorney General.
she was fired because she wasn't going to enforce that particular law.
Right.
It wasn't her job.
It
You
wasn't
could
the
have
law.
told her to go stop people on the highway for speeding. It wasn't her job.
She wasn't going to enforce the executive
No.
action that was put in
She
place.
was not going to defend it in
Right,
court.
Yes.
So
defend it in
that-
court.
And that.
That's all.
And by the way, you could fire her for that. I'll give you. But don't say she wasn't enforcing the law.
No, defended it in court.
But that's not what they said.
It doesn't matter what they say.
Yeah, it does.
No, it
It
doesn't
does.
because
David,
it doesn't matter what they
they-
say
they
because
fired-
David, you
They-
you
Wait,
talked
wait,
to the
wait.
wrong
It
fired
person.
doesn't
her for
matter
being
what they
not
say.
loyal.
Yeah.
Right. Just like you would get fired for not being loyal at your job. Just like you would get fired for not being loyal at your job.
That's
so what I'm
different.
saying, it doesn't matter because no matter what happens, no matter how they get rid of the person, to enforce the law that should be in place and be enforced for the last 20 years, Doesn't matter how they do it or what they say, you're going to be against it.
No.
You're going to be against it, and the
No.
news is
By
going to
the
be
way, when
against it.
she said what she said, I said she's going to get fired. Everybody knew that.
Right.
But if you parked in the wrong place over here and were taken to jail because you
Yeah.
broke the law you broke was that you killed somebody.
What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
She did not. She was fired
She was fired.
for
Because she wasn't
doing
gonna
something
defend-
that she wasn't supposed to be doing in the first place.
Which is what?
For not doing something that she wasn't supposed to do in the first place.
Which she wasn't going to defend the executive order, and she
If
said
it
that.
went to court,
She wasn't
she
gonna
said
defend
she
it.
wasn't going to defend it.
Right.
Because-
And she could get fired for that. And I'm not questioning that.
Right.
But that's not what they said
It
when they
doesn't- it
announced
do-
it.
it doesn't-
Yeah, it does.
No,
It
it
does
doesn't.
matter.
It
It
does
doesn't
matter.
matter.
It does
Because
matter.
it doesn't matter
That's
because
the
no matter
public
how
perception.
right, it's public perception. It doesn't matter what they say or how they say it.
Public
She
perception.
got fired because she wasn't going to defend it in court.
Right, but that's not what they said.
And I'm saying it doesn't matter.
David, if somebody
It does matter
No, it
because
doesn't.
she got fired because she said it's not clear to me, and please
Fine.
explain. And
It's
please
not clear to me.
And please explain how this executive order.
But you don't
how
know
the
you don't know the
executive order
conversations that
is
happened.
legal.
You have no idea
She
how the
said it-
conversations happened. You have no idea what was said,
what she
how it was
said
said.
was she
You
didn't-
know what was said in press. You know what the press secretary said. You have no idea what happens. And that's the problem with every news station going on right now. No matter what you see, no matter what you hear, the only person you know that's saying the right thing is Trump when he tweets. That's it.
But he changes what he tweets
Oh,
on a
please.
daily
It doesn't
basis
matter. That's
too.
the only thing you understand because when you watch Channel 7 or Channel 5 or Channel 4 or CNBC or CNN, all it is he
Fox,
did this
our
now.
Fox.
That's it.
Well,
Fox,
but-
I don't watch Fox. I don't watch. I try not to.
okay.
I don't watch anybody now because
David,
Actually,
it's
that's right.
frustrating.
That is
David,
good.
it's
I like that.
frustrating.
Yeah, there's no
I'd
point.
If
rather
I
watch
say-
Seinfeld
Yeah.
every 2 hours.
if I say you're wrong and I accuse you of being
But everything
a slob or
is blown.
something,
Everything is blown out of proportion now because of him.
but part of what's going on
He's the one
is
that's blowing
he is
things
No, he's
telling
not.
people
The news-
Absolutely.
if I
Executive orders like what happened with immigration has gone on with every single president for
I
the last
agree.
20 years.
I agree.
And nothing happened like this in the last 20 years. Obama, here's 3 pages of what Obama did with immigration. Not
Right.
one thing. Actually, you know what happened? Somerville said we're not going to follow it. Everyone can come here and live. Then Cambridge followed it. Then Boston followed it. Okay, that's the only
the
thing
way-
that happened. There weren't people protesting. There weren't people picketing.
actually
there weren't people.
but
No, they
yeah,
weren't.
not
Absolutely
to the extent,
not.
not to the same extent.
Not even to any extent. None.
Well, I-
and the difference is because you have a Republican who's in office, who does something, everyone's got to protest.
Well,
From our senators in the office sitting up on Capitol Hill, exciting riots in the streets of Boston, who are over on Capitol Hill with the Pelosi and those guys trying to excite riots in Washington. It's awful.
Wasn't
it's
it kind of
disgraceful.
like in
1968?
about 6 years ago when Obama was finally able to get the Affordable Care Act through? Part of what was going on was the people in Congress and the Koch brothers were inciting people to come into town meetings where Congress is trying to explain this is what the law is, and screaming and disrupting.
Not to this extent.
Oh yes,
They were
greater,
actually
Not
that's
to this
greater,
extent.
He has
and they
a
were
point
yelling
there,
about
actually.
things that were not
Death
true.
panel. Death panel
Death
became
panel.
a death panel
Yes.
became
Not
a
to this
really
extent.
thing.
Oh yeah.
Every town meeting, that's what
It's
they came up.
every little thing that happens now is a giant protest.
By the way,
every little
I tend to agree with you.
It's disgraceful across the board.
Why-
From
why
one
is
Wait a
it
minute,
disgraceful?
why is it
Because it is.
disgraceful?
When
Because
the Tea
every
Party
little
did
thing,
it,
every little
why
thing
was
is a
it-
protest.
Why is
Every little
the
thing.
Tea Party
Did you
was
watch?
doing the
Did
same
you watch
damn
the news
thing?
like 2 nights ago? Berkeley, kids were setting stuff on fire. Kids were
Wait,
doing
no,
stuff.
There
all
were
over the
about
place.
100 kids out of
It
several
doesn't matter.
thousand.
It doesn't
and-
matter.
You have to
What
say,
about during the
You have
election?
to say that
What about-
correctly.
what about
they
during-
didn't set
what about
anything
during the
on fire.
inauguration?
They knocked over they knocked over a lamp that happened to have
And
liquid
it set
fuel.
4 different fires in 4 different areas.
But actually,
guess so.
at Berkeley,
see that.
actually at Berkeley, I also think that they should have let the person speak.
They should have let the person.
They should have let the person
Absolutely.
speak. And also,
Absolutely.
in this all these protests,
By the way, they invited him to come and
Yes.
speak.
Right.
They get no credit for that.
yeah, but
No,
they should have
let him
let him speak. That's
And there was
would have
one
been-
thing that happened
yeah.
during the inauguration, which I don't know which college it was. It was somebody down south who went against the president went against the entire college and the public opinion to let his students come and sing at the inauguration. He went on O'Reilly, I think it was O'Reilly, and said, you know what, I'm going against my better, not my better judgment, but I'm going against the protests. I'm going against the people who said they're going to pull money. I said, it doesn't matter who's in the White House. This is a opportunity for these kids to experience this, and it doesn't matter who's there. I'm going to send them.
Cool.
Great. It was a great thing to do.
The
And
I'm
other
very-
people are. It's the
Right.
opposite, and that's and no matter.
Yeah.
I don't care who's in the White House. If I have an opportunity to meet the president, I want to meet the president. I want to shake his hand.
Yes.
Good
Okay.
or bad.
but
I want
Alright.
to shake his
The-
hand
the- the-
because that
Okay.
office.
You have a right in the same way as I can't even remember his name anymore. The goalie for the Bruins.
Danny,
no.
no,
I
no.
know. Well,
Yeah.
that's different. I mean, that's.
Well, but he made a political statement.
he
but
didn't
he has
wanna
a right
go.
to do it.
He absolutely has a right to do
Yeah.
it. But
And
that's fine.
that's
But that's
cool.
his individual right. He's not blocking the streets of Boston for 14 hours.
By the way,
And
do you
that's-
remember the Tea Party and what they were
Yes.
doing and what they were showing and still show every? It's probably stopped now, but every couple of months in front of the post office,
Where?
there was these guys standing there
Yes,
with
that's true.
signs.
Where? What post office?
Our Burlington
Our
post
Burlington
office.
I work during the day.
You got to stop doing that.
But didn't they have the Nazi signs and
Yeah.
stuff? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
were
they
they
were.
blocking traffic?
No, in that particular case, but I can tell you that there were a number of times that the Tea Party was protesting
Pretty
Where?
nasty.
Where?
Pretty nasty.
all over the country.
All over
Maybe
the
not
Yeah, they weren't
Burlington.
blocking
What-
traffic because there's not that many of them.
Right. There's not that many of them.
Whereas for right now, the student population, which is huge, and especially in colleges, that when they come out by the
Right.
thousands.
But
And by the way, one of the things to remember is it's not so much Trump, but Trump made himself the person who didn't like gays, who didn't like transgender, who didn't like anybody who disagreed with him. The reason why about 30 Democratic congressmen did not attend the inaugural,
But
or at least
that's just like that.
publicly
That doesn't
didn't.
matter. That's the same thing. Both.
But what
Every-
happened was
that happens both
John
sides.
happens both
Lewis-
sides.
John Lewis made a statement which might have been a little extreme. I will give you that. And Trump came back and said, "Who are you? You've never done anything in your life."
Okay.
And
That's
he
another
did public-
extreme. That's another
That's-
extreme.
That's a
I
very
understand that.
extreme.
Exactly.
And a bunch of people protested.
Of course they're going to protest.
Okay, well, that's what the protests are about. You got a guy who's going out of his way to thumb his nose at everybody, and then he gets pissed when somebody thumbs back.
Well, I give credit that this democracy. People should protest, but at the same time, you also have to see the organizers of the Women's March, for example.
Yes.
There are certain groups. Then there are other groups. There is one. I forgot which place she's from. Linda Sarsour. She's an Arab woman.
Okay.
And when you listen to her, she talks about how Sharia law is most important, and she's going to. I can't say this on the. I will have to say this. How she's going to drag out women's private parts out because people are so nasty to her. Which I thought that was so sad that here is a woman.
I'm not even sure I understand what it is you're saying, but it sounds like she was a little bit.
Most of the speeches.
I mean,
that
I thought that was so
Right, and-
so scary that this woman is on the one hand she's advocating for women's rights, on the other hand she's coming out for Sharia law to be administered throughout the country, and
Right.
Maybe
Most
she
of the
sees
speeches-
Sharia law as
I mean-
a form of protecting women.
no, but it's
I
not,
don't
but
know. I
no,
don't believe in it, but
I
I'm-
will tell you what Sharia law is. You beat them up.
I think
Not
there's a little
protect-
more to it than that.
Yes, there is.
If there wasn't, there are a hell of a lot of
Well-
women who would probably beat back.
Well,
At least the women I know. And I know
no,
some Arabic women.
No, well, in Muslim countries, for example, you have places where you can go. For example, if the woman is assaulted
Yeah.
and she reports, she has to have 3 or 4 male witnesses that she has been assaulted. How are you going to get 4 witnesses for rape?
Right.
And she's put in jail because
or beaten or.
no, she's going to be put in. She is put in jail. And there are cases like this in Dubai, for example, which are out there. A British woman or Australian woman, she complained, and she was put in jail because she complained. And now they're asking, bring us 4 witnesses. I mean, That's Sharia law.
Well, it may explain why women in Arabic countries have to be escorted by men.
I mean, that's the thing.
Okay.
That's what I'm.
I
That's
don't
what I'm
believe
looking
in
at.
Sharia law,
Yeah,
but
but-
I understand that there are a lot of things that people in other countries don't agree about our
Yes,
law and
that
our
is
way
true.
of
But
doing
at the
things.
same time, you have to really have a balance somewhere. That if you are protesting in a democracy, you can't, because those two things are incompatible. So we got to understand that part.
Yeah, I think basically you have to, work with the laws that are in the country.
Yes, I
And
agree with that.
If you violently disagree with the laws that are in the country, find a different country.
Yes.
Not everybody has the opportunity to do that. The
Correct.
laws in Germany in the 1930s were pretty clear. And them who had a lot of money were in a position to get out. Not everybody has a lot of money.
Well,
Not even
actu-
people who had a lot of money.
well,
got out.
actually,
Well,
actually, this is the statement that Jared Kushner's grandmother has given.
Okay.
That's exactly what you said, because she survived the Holocaust and came here, and she has written. I think she has given this statement to some newspaper long time ago. It has shown up now. That she talked about how the refugees were turned back, how she had to escape, and how they had to hide in the forest, and how because of I think they went to Switzerland or Sweden, I forgot where, and it took them several years to get to this place, and how difficult it was to get to the United States, and how the policies were not conducive for people to migrate, for Jews. And so that's again, and then again at the same time she says people who had wherewithal could do that, but people who did not, they just basically perished.
A story,
Yes.
something on the side, but gives you an idea of at least how I feel about refugees. In the 1930s, the Nazis hated Jews. They campaigned on getting rid of the Jews, etc. It was too damn difficult to kill them all. So they allowed people to get bought, their freedom to be bought. And there was a boatload of Jewish kids who were ransomed and left Germany and could not find a country that would accept them, including the United States.
This was SS St. Louis.
I don't remember the name of the boat.
I think so.
And eventually the boat had no choice but to go back to
Yes.
Germany, and the people were stuck in Auschwitz or whatever camp. Is this what we want to perpetuate in the United States? Is this our attitude towards people who are in need?
I mean, that's what Alan Dershowitz's question was, comment was actually, that we should not, if we are looking at history of United States, we have been racist. That's what
absolutely.
he says. He said it flat. And then, but we should look at it in as a practical matter and devise a policy that is conducive to what we know now, and on humanitarian grounds have a policy that fits our model of thinking at this time, but at the same time do not rush. So he's kind of making it so that it is more humanitarian based, and people are vetted better and all that, rather than
Discussed, basically.
Yeah.
It should be discussed
It
by
should be
both
discussed,
parties,
yes.
not imposed by one.
Mhm. So
Doesn't
that's
matter which party it imposes it, it shouldn't be imposed.
so there is a rational thinking behind it.
What should Trump be doing? He says he's 90 days, give him a chance so you'll get a flood of people coming in. What should he be doing? Should he, by the way, put on a ban on tourists who have
Well,
a background?
I think it's 90 days to figure out what to do, right? Just like all the other bans that were done before. So it's 90 days, then figure out what to do with immigration, in a sense, for that particular
So
piece.
what should
So I
he do?
Don't know.
Well,
It's tough. Both ways,
Well,
it's tough. So
It
it's
is tough.
it's very tough to think
Is the,
about
ni-
it because
is the 90 days going to be, this seemed to work well, let's keep it? So let's keep the ban indefinitely?
actually,
know,
if you think about it, there hasn't. there are no attacks by immigrants for the last, what, 10 years? The next 90 days, there are no attacks by immigrants. Well, it's working fine. No, we won't change anything.
Yeah.
So
I think he's basically just trying to buy himself 90 days.
Well, he has
Yeah.
he keeps his promise. He has kept the promise
kept
to
the
his
promise of something he said
his
during his
electorate. Now he can decide whatever
Don't you
to do.
remember when he was running? People after he would say something would say, "Well, he doesn't really mean that. Don't worry. He
Yeah,
doesn't
but
really
peop-
mean that.
yeah,
Don't
pe-
worry."
Yes,
The
people
only
used to
ones
say
who thought
that.
he meant it were the Democrats.
I mean,
No,
that's
he meant it.
yeah, but
He
that's
meant it the whole time.
the
Yeah.
But
people-
all the people on his side said, "Oh, he
Well,
doesn't
there
really."
weren't too many people on his side.
because
Maybe his campaign manager
Yeah,
might have spun it. Those people.
yes,
Because-
those
right,
people
okay.
and Republican politicians.
well, that's
Not
where
many Republican politicians
there
were
were.
on his
they,
side.
yes,
there
the
were.
well, Republican politicians who were running against him also thought whatever he says is all no
garbage.
good and all
Right.
that. And same thing what the press did. Press also did the same thing.
Press
They
did the
also
same thing. And
I mean,
even
that's
guys like Ryan,
I
and
mean,
guys
that's-
like guys who were
Ted
in
Cruz.
Ted Cruz.
Ted
Yeah.
Cruz. Right.
I don't understand. Here is a guy who, number one, was pissed. I mean,
Yes.
really pissed, and he hung in, and he fought,
He
and
hung,
he fought,
he hung
and he
in for
fought.
the longest
Yeah.
time, not even to endorse him at the
Yeah.
convention.
Right. And afterwards as well. And then all of a sudden, hey,
Well, he's
great
there.
guy.
But yesterday,
there.
with
Now he's there. Now you have to figure out what to do.
with the justice nomination, Gorsuch nomination.
Yep.
I think Ted Cruz says this is the wonderful time for the year and all that.
Actually, Gorsuch seems like a qualified guy.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
don't agree with his politics, but he seems like a
He's a
qualified
very
guy.
qualified guy.
Clarence Thomas, not so much.
Well,
If Gorsuch had been nominated instead of Clarence Thomas, I think we would all be in a better place.
well, people say that Clarence Thomas doesn't speak, but
At
he
all.
at all.
There was one time he didn't even speak in a vote for like 12 years.
Yes, he has not
Right?
Yeah,
spoken.
he
12
asked the
years,
question
14,
about
one.
a
Just
year
last
ago.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
once.
He asked one question in
Right.
But-
however many years.
But he has written opinions. Apparently,
off
people
the cuff.
off-
Off
whatever
whatever they
people
call
say
it.
that
Right.
his opinions are grand things to read, but I don't know anything about it. But
I've heard that he's written a couple of opinions,
Mm-hmm.
but basically he used to sign off on anything that the leader said.
okay, I mean, when you look at the confirmation hearings of his confirmation hearings, they were awful.
Yeah,
But at
think
this-
about
I
it
mean-
a
I
little
mean-
bit.
Well, have you
Well-
watched any of the confirmation hearings going on now?
No, but in his case, it was more personal.
Yeah.
That's
There
where
wa- well, there was a what was the situation with him that they were trying to get him on
that woman.
sexual assault?
Yes,
charge,
that
right?
woman. That woman
That
was.
was what they
yeah.
really.
Right.
Yeah, that woman
hammered
was.
him
She's a professor at Brandeis now.
Yeah.
She came out clearly describing stuff, and nobody believed her.
Nobody believed her.
So
I know.
that's. But of course,
Okay, forget the fact that he may or may not have done
Yeah.
some things. We have a president who brags
Yes.
about it, but
Brags about what?
it turns out that the man
Grabbing
doesn't
women.
appear to have the intellectual capacity to do the job.
but he's there for life.
Yep. Although, no, he actually said that he may resign because he doesn't want to spend his whole life doing
Oh,
this.
sorry, well,
Who?
Now that
Clarence
Thomas,
Oh.
now that he's got a Republican to appoint somebody
appoint
to
somebody
replace him, then he may.
How old is Thomas?
Well, he's young on that board when you have an
Right.
85-year-old woman, right? Or
Yes,
so he's young.
Ruth
Ginsburg.
Ginsburg.
Yeah.
She's tough.
She's a tough lady.
Yes,
Believe what she believes or not, she's a tough lady.
she's a tough lady. I mean, that's what Justice Scalia talked about, how he valued the opinions she had,
Mhm.
and so legal opinions,
Right.
which he thought they were I shouldn't say friendly, but so
Well thought out.
intellectually
Yeah.
stimulating. That's what he described, which I thought that was interesting that they worked at that level.
And hopefully that they were able to interact enough that they came to a reasonable conclusion.
Yeah.
They didn't seem to agree very often. but you don't necessarily have to agree to have an effect.
I mean that's what court is for, to provide a judgment one way or the one side or the other, and it will always, well, not always, but you expect it to be a split decision. So.
Well, yeah, because you have two different beliefs.
Yeah, you have two different
And that's what I don't get with the Supreme Court, because you're supposed to follow the law.
Yes, but
And you're not supposed to have any personal opinions on it. You're supposed to follow the law.
well,
Have you
and-
ever talked to 3 different clergymen?
I'm not saying. Again, I'm not. That's not what I'm talking about.
Well, it's the
From
same
a
thing.
from a Supreme Court perspective,
They're
if
reading
I'm
the-
always going to go in one direction, then how am I following the law if it's saying I need to go in this direction? I don't
Because
know.
you interpret.
Because you
they-
interpret it
they
differently.
right. They
You interpret it the way you want to interpret it, and you interpret it the way you want to interpret it. And you have 4 different interpretations of one written law,
The difference,
or more.
Yeah.
at least
I
they're
mean-
required to justify it. So
Yes.
they're required to say, this is my reasoning, which is more than a lot of people have to do when they make
well, you also
One of the things is, like for instance, if I were a very strict constructionist that looked only at the Constitution and what the Constitution said, the Bill of Rights was added after the Constitution.
Yes.
That means,
Second
Fir-
Amendment.
First Amendment, Second Amendment,
Well,
There are-
wasn't that who was Justice Scalia? He's the one who's passed away, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't that what he was talking about through the last
Well,
through his whole
y-
tenure? That was one of the things that he was talking about.
He
with the Bill of Rights?
well he talks about how
But he was for gun
Constitution
control.
Constitution
But I'm not
is
gun control.
yes.
No.
He was for assault weapons.
So-
Yes, but what he was saying is that the Constitution is not a living it's not a living, it's a document made at one time.
At one time, and
that's
it's not
it.
living forward. Correct. And
And-
that's
but
and
then, of course, he kind of looked over those bills and the stuff. He took that as part of the whole document and then worked with it.
work with it, right?
If
Yeah.
he's the guy who says that corporations are
Yes.
people with religious rights,
Yes.
then I guarantee you will not find that in the Constitution or the 20-some odd amendments, etc. He invented law.
Well, you have freedom of speech.
And
That's what
that's what the
Did
new
he
guy
not?
says.
that's freedom of
I-
speech. That's
Am
freedom
I
of
making
speech.
something up, or is that
That was pretty
reality?
good. You
Yeah,
invented
thank
the
you.
law.
No,
Pretty good.
but the thing is, he interpreted freedom of speech. That's the
Are we talking about Gorsuch or
no,
No,
Scalia.
Scalia? Because what you just said is what the new guy believes. He's
What?
the,
Gorsuch.
that corporations have
Are people.
have a right to make laws based on their religion.
Right. So a
And-
corporation has all the legal rights and few, if any, of the legal responsibilities of a human being.
Yes, of course.
And I guarantee you that is not in the Constitution. And if it's become law, which it has, that is invented. And invented in the Supreme Court.
Okay.
So don't tell me about a strict constructionist who invents a completely
Well,
alien view.
is this alien that they? Well, it didn't.
I mean, if a liberal did that, I could sort of understand it because they believe in the living Constitution. Corporations have become
Alive.
alive. Yeah.
But
They
So
are
corporations
born,
have
they
their own
die,
laws. Corporations
He's
have their own laws.
they
alive.
kill, they eat, etc.
But they have their own laws,
But
don't Corporations don't they have their own laws within the corporation?
they
Yes.
have. Well,
Yes.
I have
Yeah.
laws
And if-
within my
and
family.
if Trump worked for
Not-
my company,
my
laws
family
for-
doesn't
He'd be-
really
he'd be
follow
fired in
them, but
3
I have my
minutes.
laws.
But is that how he interprets it?
No. There was a point where where you could sue a corporation.
Mhm.
And to sue a corporation, they had to have some kind of a legal standing.
Yep.
So they were called a legal person. And that has now become that they are super people. They not only are they people legally, but they have more rights than people.
Okay.
I think it's great. I just want to be a corporation.
well, you
so
could
Vic,
you could you could actually
you could
register as a
right.
corporation.
An individual corporation doesn't have nearly the rights.
Uh-oh.
Oh, so
that-
it's different.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
yeah.
what I was going to point out is, isn't that didn't the Supreme Court one time legalize that blacks can't vote? or blacks are not people, which is in the Constitution.
Yeah, that's the original.
That's the original.
Yeah.
So should we go by that then, or
No,
should we let it
they
be?
changed it. This non-living document got changed.
Okay, well then that's a problem then.
Just like prohibition of alcohol,
Yes, prohibition of alcohol.
and then that get rescinded. So
Yeah, okay. So that gave us NASCAR, and we had and everybody is running after those.
No, the prohibition gave us NASCAR.
Yes,
We couldn't get rid of it when we got rid of it.
which is interesting actually, but
Yeah.
hey, it has become a sport.
Right.
And
When life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
yeah, they did. They did. They were actually making lemonade, but
Yeah.
kind of different lemonade.
Actually, you can go down and buy hard lemonade now in the liquor store.
Oh,
Yeah, Mike's.
is that right? Wow.
It's good.
Never had it.
It's good.
So is that moonshine or is that real? No, it's
it's,
not.
it's a real company.
I see.
Moonshine, by the way, is nothing more than illegal
Yes.
booze.
But people do make it still up
Yeah,
in the
I
woods.
understand.
But
I
is
lived-
that
I lived
illegal? Is that illegal? Or
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Because they show it on TV.
Is
Yeah,
it-
when they
is
show
it
you
It's the
shows,
amount
they don't
that you
walk- They
make.
don't show you how you get there. They
Yes.
just show when they're there.
Yes.
They don't want
It's the
people to
amount you
find
make.
us.
You can make X number of quarts or gallons
At your
at
home.
Well, that's why they have the beer making thing, so
Yes.
you
Yeah.
can bring it home and make alcohol too. But yeah,
So,
this is
uh,
the big
That they
stills
have the
that
big stills.
they're bottling and sending
Yeah.
amongst the.
But I grew up in
Oh.
the hills of Tennessee,
Wow.
and we had a housekeeper, and her husband was a moonshiner.
Wow.
He made some god awful stuff.
So,
So, did anybody see Tom Brokaw's special the other night?
No,
50 years
I wanted
of
to.
50 years of NBC. Nobody saw it.
yeah, I watched snippets of it.
Great show.
Yes,
Absolutely
I
great show.
really admired that he gave a perspective, different ways, different
All
types.
different perspectives.
Yes.
Talk about when he first started
Yeah.
his career, all the way up, and he had people interviewing. He
Yes.
was interviewing people, and the people interviewing him
Him,
back. And
yeah.
they had him in the White House when he was talking to Nixon, and how they had a real friction because
Yeah.
Nixon didn't like the press, and especially them two didn't get along. Then he interviewed Nixon after the fact, and it was a little bit more relaxed, and it was a nice conversation. But he was sitting there with Oprah, and she asked him a question. He goes, "When have you ever seen it like this before?" He goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "The divide of the country. When have you ever seen this like this before?" And he took a moment. He said, "1968."
Yes.
He goes, "1968 this is exactly what it was like." He goes, you had Martin Luther King get assassinated. You had
Wallace got
Kennedy
shot. Kennedy got-
get
Kennedy
assassinated.
got
And you had
assassinated.
Vietnam going on. You had all the turmoil in the
Yeah.
country and everything going on. It was a divide between races. You had a divide between parties. You had and you thought somebody was going to bring it together. And Kennedy seemed like he was going in that direction. And he gets shot, and the country just seemed like it was just in dismal. I mean, we weren't going to come out of it.
But we did.
But we did.
Well,
But we did, and he talked about the years after that and how when Reagan got in
Yeah.
office, and Reagan had, he compared Reagan to Trump starting out, because Reagan was this long shot. He was
Yeah.
never going to make the
No.
presidency, never ever in a million years going to make the presidency. And not only did he landslide.
Yeah.
Came in and there was protest,
But-
and
4 years earlier, he gave a speech on,
Reagan.
yeah, Reagan, and it was very good. At
Oh, it was great. Yeah, yeah.
At the convention.
You're right. They actually talked about that.
Right.
Whereas
But his odds of winning the presidency, he was on a bus.
Yes.
He wasn't getting all this public attention. A guy from Hollywood and all
Yeah.
this other stuff, and his beliefs were backwards.
Yes.
They were very
But
drastic.
I'll give you
the
an
big
example
change,
of
wait a minute,
yeah.
the big change was in New Hampshire
In New Hampshire, yes.
when he said, "I paid for
I
this
paid for this
microphone.
mic."
We're all going to speak on it."
I paid for this
Oh,
mic.
were they not going to let him speak? Is that why?
No.
No.
He wanted just him and
Bush.
Bush. Bush
Senior
wanted,
Bush.
wanted just him and Bush.
Oh, okay.
Whereas Reagan said the other guy should be there
Yeah.
too.
He says, I paid for the mic.
I'll give you
I like that,
one
actually.
difference,
That's pretty
one massive difference between Reagan and Trump. It explains in large measure what's going on in the streets today. When Reagan came in, he at least talked like he was going to be president for everybody, and he was going to try to get things done. He was going to work with the other side. And Trump is going out of his way to show he's boss, and it's his way or the highway. And if you say anything, he's going to come at you with whatever he happens to have at the moment. Mostly, it's been his phone, but someday it could be something else.
I mean, I agree with you there, because when Reagan came in, he did act, well, he acted presidential.
Right.
And he had eloquence to his
Oh yeah, he had,
his speech.
Yep.
He was an actor and he knew how to act.
And he knew how to act. But that is what gave the nation kind of a confidence that things are going to get better.
Yeah.
Although
Well, it
he
took a
slept.
little while,
Well,
but
he
it took a little
slept,
while.
but that's different.
Yeah.
But it worked,
It worked.
for him
Yeah.
and for the country,
Right.
for the time being.
Right.
Of course, he did a few other policies which kind of messed up things, but
Right.
and people kind of ignored those, me included. But at the same time, when you compare that to Trump, it's not this. You can't compare, as you pointed out.
They weren't
Sure.
comparing
No.
that. They were comparing the upset
Yes.
getting there, and then they weren't. That was it. That's where they stopped.
Okay,
That's all
68.
that's all they talked about.
Nixon was elected in
Oh,
large
yeah, the
measure
impeachment.
because
Impeachment.
friends of mine who said, no, Humphrey's horrible because he won't denounce the war, so they got Nixon. But Nixon, again, tried to bring people together. He did not go out publicly, at least, saying, I'm my way or the highway.
Although that's the way it was.
Yeah, but at least,
Right. He wasn't public
Right.
about it. Right.
while
Or,
Trump,
well, at the time there wasn't much public. There's a little bit difference now, and it's unfortunate that everything that happens is live, and he shouldn't be doing this. He shouldn't be tweeting every
Yes.
conversation. He shouldn't be tweeting, getting off the phone with
Yes.
the Prime Minister of Australia and saying, talking about the conversation. That shouldn't happen.
I mean, one of the things which happened actually, which you bring up very nicely here, that he talked to Prime Minister of Pakistan, and he said he's an excellent.
He
And
had a great conversation.
He's a great conversation, and
It
you
was
know,
like an hour.
yeah,
so
you
like
know,
the longest,
you know what
was that
yeah,
the one with the
yeah.
longest conversation?
You know what
out of everybody?
Pakistani press has said? Oh, our Prime Minister is great. Trump said so, and all Indians are all upset because, I mean, if you have this guy is great, who are you comparing him to?
Right.
And so that is what that shouldn't be tweeted. I mean,
Right.
if they had a conversation, it's good.
It should be a private conversation.
Let them. I mean, if you listen to Nixon's conversations, he hated Jews. He hated this.
everybody.
He hated
Well,
everybody.
He hated
But
everybody.
you
But that was
didn't-
his private
yeah,
conversation.
But
Right.
you didn't
Although it was
know
recorded, it's his
you
private
didn't
conversation.
know it. You didn't know it right away. We know it now.
You know, well,
Doesn't
yeah.
matter now.
right. Well,
E-
and some of it
Even
is
what we
their
know
leaks
about Nixon,
Yeah.
like
I would
crazy.
take Nixon in a shot over George W. or this guy.
Yeah, because well,
I would.
I wouldn't.
Nixon was
was
pretty
different.
bad, and
He was bad,
if
but he wasn't
if he
disastrous.
was in this environment with the amount of control that the executive has today compared to then, not clear.
I mean, if you
Yeah,
listen to
maybe-
his
maybe you're right.
If you
Yeah.
listen to his conversations, they are pretty awful, actually.
They're very awful. Yeah.
I mean, we didn't know it at that time. We thought, well, he's just bombing this guy and this country or the other country. But
It was
what
almost-
was,
it was
what
almost-
was
it was almost
going
vengeful.
on?
It was-
What
it
was
was a-
going
Very
on?
vengeful.
He was
And
making those lists and
Trump is.
crossing those
vengeful.
lists.
I mean,
Well,
if
we
you-
don't. The thing is, we don't know to what extent the vengeful can get to yet, right? We hope it doesn't get to a point. Firing somebody, yeah, that's vengeful.
Right.
But that's a small point for a person. Other things we talk about with Nixon bombing
Yes.
different areas because of certain situations is extreme.
Yes.
We hope it doesn't get to there because Nixon didn't have the means that
No.
we have now, right? So it's a big difference there. That's why you hope it doesn't get to that point. And you hope that his inner circle is letting him do this for a little bit. Hopefully, he has some people around him who are smart and they're intelligent that are going to start saying, you just got to circle a little bit. You have the attention. You're doing everything you said you're going to do. Let's just try to circle a little bit and do
Trump
things the right way.
has spent his career, and he's 70 years old, which means it's been a long time,
Yep.
testing the boundaries. He'll do anything,
Absolutely.
and then if somebody pushes back hard, as opposed to just object, he says, I'm sorry, and, does whatever he needs to do to get out of it,
Yep.
and then pushes back again later on.
Yep.
And right now, the only people who are holding him back are the protesters and the Democratic senators.
Yep.
That's it.
But
So if you say, no, they're wrong, they shouldn't do it, then you're basically giving him carte blanche, and he already has said publicly, without anybody objecting, I can do whatever I want. I'm the president. There are no limits on me. So
but there are.
everybody's
That's-
the same under the law. Absolutely true, except for Donald Trump.
what I'm hoping
Hey,
is
Nick.
that
Go
what,
ahead, Vincent. Hey, Nick.
Yeah.
it's not listening.
Yeah, he's only got a couple
We
of
got a
minutes.
couple of minutes.
What I'm hoping is that his Secretary of State, Tillerson, no,
Yeah, Tillerson.
Tillerson.
he has
He's a very
yeah,
intelligent
he
person.
has a
He had-
special
he had a-
relationship with Putin,
Yep.
and I'm hoping that relationship is going to help in bringing Russia and United States together to fight against the terrorism.
By the way, Putin is formatting some more stuff in Ukraine right now.
What?
What is Trump going to do?
Well, that's
Because
see,
Putin
we'll see.
is just like Trump. He'll
We'll
do
see.
what he can.
Right, he'll push and push and push and push.
Until somebody stops
Until
him.
some,
And
or,
if Trump-
or tries to stop him. Right now, no one stopped him in the last 8 years.
no,
Right.
but
So-
Well, they
He's been
hurt him a little bit with the sanctions.
with the sanctions,
but by the way,
didn't
Trump,
hurt him, hurt more the
Trump
people
is
than him.
easing some sanctions against
Against
the FSS, which is
Right.
the Russian CIA.
Right.
But it's okay. It's just an administrative adjustment.
That's all.
I mean,
Hey,
but
Nick.
but at the same time, you do have to
not coming
you
out.
do have to confront that,
Yeah.
and I hope they do it early because once it gets out of hand, it is out of hand. See, we have the
how'd we do
new
tonight?
star.
We do good?
Yeah.
Yeah? Everyone do okay? Who did the best?
You.
Thank you. Thanks, buddy. Say hi
That's
to
the
everybody.
endorsement.
Hello.
See ya.
I'm staying.
All right.
All right.
So that's what I'm hoping, that we will have a better relationship so that we
Okay,
can
see
do
ya.
something in
Alright.
Syria. Because I always have said this earlier, also said that Obama policy in Syria was not the right one.
No,
Maybe not. But
it
you'll
was bad.
notice that now that Aleppo has been flattened,
Devastated.
the
Well,
Russians
they
are leaving.
pulled out. They left.
Well,
So
well,
ISIS is there.
right.
We're against ISIS, but as long as we get rid of all the other guys,
And,
they're
and,
fine.
and it was Putin who actually organized the ceasefire. And
Yes.
he just told his guys to stop bombing.
But,
So-
Russia was never against ISIS. Actually, they were only
they were
only
supporting
for
Right.
Assad.
So what happens when ISIS starts to organize in Chechnya?
That's a problem.
And where?
Chechnya.
They probably already are.
Well, they're probably some semi-organized, but I don't think.
I would think that they will become much more organized because number one, they're a lot closer now
Mm-hmm.
in Syria, and number two, they're emboldened.
Mm-hmm.
The Americans aren't able to stop them, and the Russians won't.
But
Well, the Russians will stop. Well, Russia will get involved when it seems when it's in their best interest to
Which,
keep them
by
out
the
of
way,
the country.
is fine. That's what
That's
countries
when
are
that's when
supposed
they're going
to
to get
do.
involved.
You're supposed to
And
get
if ISIS
involved.
makes that mistake, then he'll just carpet bomb the whole place. He doesn't care who's
Well, they-
there
they-
or anything.
they did
It's
kill
different.
a lot of Chechens actually.
Who did?
Few years ago.
ISIS.
No, not
No,
ISIS.
Russia.
Putin.
Russia.
Putin. Right. That's
Well,
what I mean. He doesn't care who's
No.
there.
There are millions of people in Chechnya, and he didn't kill millions. Of
No, he
people.
did not
Right.
kill millions.
But
no,
he
he
will.
killed some.
He'll
He
take
did
out
kill-
whatever. He'll take out whoever's there. Doesn't matter. Women, kids, anybody that's on the ground to get to advance. Doesn't matter. So he doesn't. That's not a concern with him.
But unless
that's the good way to be.
yes, but unless there is a global policy against Islamic terrorism, we are faced with this forever,
Right.
and that's what I'm afraid of. In fact,
I think that that's a given, whether it's Islamic terrorism or some other kind of
Well, it's
terrorism.
any kind. It's any
a
type
any
of
kind,
terrorism.
any kind of terrorism.
So,
There you are.
That's it.
No,
all right.
I think we're done.
This was fun.
Yeah.
this is
I
fun.
hope you
Okay.
guys had a good time.
2 minutes left.
Do we?
No, I think it's already over.
Paul's watch.
Are we over?
Yeah, it's
That's
over.
over.
My watch says 9 o'clock. We got 2 minutes left.
Oh.
Well, start talking.
Start talking. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
It is scary.